Okay, now you are finally here. I was waiting for you. So let's start the vlog. Hello everyone, welcome to another vlog. If you are here for the first time or you are coming back for another video, thank you for taking the time to watch another vlog from the seaman life. Today we will be talking about the steering gear of the vessel. I am currently on a chemical tanker. As you can see for yourself, we are departing the port. We are in Durban in South Africa, and we are departing in this narrow channel. And of course the steering gear is the most important thing of the vessel. Without this you cannot move the vessel, and it is part of the critical equipment. If you have any problem with this, no port authority will allow you to leave the port or to go inside the port. So this is absolutely vital for the vessel. And according to the IMO, every crew member of the vessel has to know how to use the steering gear in manual condition. That means if the diesel generators, the auxiliary engine, have a problem and they cannot be used anymore, you could use the emergency steering gear, which is supplied by the emergency generator. And that procedure I will show you further in our video, but do not think that you are safe even if you are a messman, for example. Some authorities, especially the US Coast Guard, will ask you if you know how to use the steering gear. So you should pay attention if you are coming on board for the first time, because there will be drills. There will be many drills on board on a monthly basis regarding different subjects. And one of the drills will be showing all the crew members how to use the emergency steering gear. So you have to pay attention. And if you do not understand something, always ask questions. Now we are in the steering gear room, and I am going to show you number 1 panel, which is the supply for the number 1 pump of the steering gear. This number 1 is also critical equipment, as you can see written there on the panel. That means the supply is also coming from the emergency generator. So whenever I am testing the alarms on the steering gear, I will open the panel here and I will test from the contactors and from the electrical equipment inside. There are 4 critical alarms that have to be tested before every departure. These alarms are overload, phase fail, no voltage, and oil tank level low. That is the hydraulic oil, which is supplying the pump for the steering gear. Whenever you are testing the emergency gear on manual mode, you have to switch off the autopilot, because as the name says, it will guide the steering gear according to the instructions which are on the bridge and the second mate has put in the departure plan in the ECDIS, the electronic chart. This is the panel. You see all the electrical parts there, and it is easier for me to check all the alarms from inside the panel. And I know this because I checked the electrical diagram, but also I show every crew member in case I am required to do another job. I show the 4th engineer or the 3rd engineer, whichever is the duty engineer, I show them how to test these alarms. So I am not required to be here in the steering gear room to test the alarm. Only if I have another urgent job to be done, and usually I am there. I am the one who is testing together with the second mate or whoever is the officer on duty on the bridge. So before every departure we check these alarms. As a side note, whenever you are going for a US port, you have to test the steering gear in 3 stages. You have to test it 48 hours prior to arriving to that port, 24 hours and 12 hours prior to arriving to that port. So if there are any issues with your steering gear, you need to report this to the US Coast Guard before you arrive to the port, because if they catch you with any problem and you do not notify them in any way, when you arrive in the port and they are coming for an inspection, if they see that your steering gear is not working in the proper condition, the ship will be arrested, and it will be a very big headache for the company and for the chief engineer, and of course for you, the one who is not reporting the problem. So you have to take good care of this steering gear equipment. Of course there is maintenance to be done. Me as an electrician, I always check the running hours on the bearing. I check the level of the hydraulic oil in the tank, and I also make sure to retie all the electrical connections on the panels, not only the steering gear, all over the ship, because on the vessel, if you have not been there before, I will tell you now, there are a lot of vibrations, and after a while, if nobody is checking the electrical connections, you can have some loose connections and you can have plenty headaches from such a small deal. So it's usually a good practice to check these connections from time to time, just to be sure that nothing is loose. And now we go again in the steering gear room to have an overview of everything what is inside regarding the steering gear. These are the motors for the pump. This is number 1 pump, and the reason why the cover is red is because it's the emergency pump. So this one has supply from the emergency generator as well. That is the connection box for the level of the tank. This is the tank for the hydraulic oil. And of course, you can test the alarm by opening that electrical connection in that small box over there, but I prefer to use it in the panel. It seems safer for me. This phone in the steering gear room is supplied by 24 volts battery on the bridge in the battery room, and it is used whenever we are testing the emergency procedure of the steering gear, or whenever we have some inspection and things like that. So whenever I am testing the steering gear for any reason, I check here on this indication the degree of movement of the steering gear, and the degree here has to match with the one on the bridge. Whenever I am testing this, there is a duty officer on the bridge, and he will tell me by either a walkie-talkie or on the phone that I showed you previously the movement of the steering gear. So he will say, for example, 10 port side, and I have to check that it's matching here with what he is telling from the bridge. And that is the heading, which I also have to report to the officer on duty, and he has to match whatever it is here with the heading which he has on the steering gear on the bridge. This is the solenoid for the number 1 pump, and on the other side there is another solenoid, and this is supplied on the 24 volts DC, and this is how you are using the manual procedure of the emergency steering gear. So this is how you are using it. After you switch off the autopilot, you will push like this with this screwdriver. You will push on the solenoid, and you will coordinate with the officer on duty, which is on the bridge, with the degree of movement of the steering gear. And on this side is the same thing as well. A solenoid, you see the red side is for port side, the green one is for the starboard side, and that is how you are using the manual procedure of the steering gear. This will be explained to you whenever you are coming on board, when you will have a drill with the whole crew. So the chief officer or the chief engineer will explain to you this procedure. So like I was saying before, the steering gear is part of the critical equipment, and of course there are some maintenance schedules that have to be done in time. Like I was saying, for the bearing, which has running hours, about 10,000 running hours, and for example, if you have any issues with the bearing, you are not allowed to replace it in the port, for example. They usually do not accept that, so this will be done in anchorage most likely. But if you have any issues at sea, it will be a big headache. Usually you have to stop the main engine and do the proper maintenance, because whenever you are arriving in the port, most likely no port authority anywhere in the world will allow you to come inside the port if you have problems with your steering gear. So always do the proper maintenance on time and follow the procedure that is written in the manual. Whenever I am on board, I like to be proactive, and I have done this. I have printed the instruction from the manual, and after laminating them, I posted them on the panel in the steering gear room for the new guys. So whenever you are coming on board, check the panels first if you have any instructions over there. Of course, like I was saying, everything will be explained to you by your chief engineer or the second engineer whenever you are having a drill. But if you do not understand something, always ask questions if you are coming on board. Being part of the critical equipment, of course, you have on board the vessel a special location where you have the spare parts for this, and they cannot be used for any other equipment on board. You have to keep it for the steering gear. Some contactors or some fuses, most likely they will match for another panel, but it's also a good practice to keep them for the steering gear. You never know when you will need it, and if you do not have the required spares, you will have big headaches with your company and with the port authorities. So always do the proper maintenance and always keep a good inventory of the spare parts for critical equipment, any critical equipment, not only the steering gear. And this is a very short clip to show you exactly how the alarm look like. I have tested this just now when we have departed from Durban, and this is how they look like in the monitor, in the alarm monitor in the engine room. Of course, that monitor has another slave monitor on the bridge, and that can be checked by the officer on duty or by captain. Usually on inspections, if you have vetting or CDI, they do not require you to check the steering gear when they are on board. They will just check the monitor on the history, and they will see that you have tested the alarms, they are in good order, so everybody will be happy. Thank you for watching my clip. I hope that it was useful and you liked it. Hit that like button, share it to your friends, and I hope you want to subscribe to my channel. I will keep posting information like this, useful information about the seaman life and what we do on board, how we handle different situations, and so on. I hope to see you next time, and have a nice day. Goodbye.